Welcome to the Heather Penny podcast. We're excited to have you here. We've got some great guests joining us, a lot of profound wisdom and insight that I think you're going to learn a lot, because I know we get to learn from one another and we just get to join our collective wisdom together and move out into this world so that we can get more clarity, more confidence, and more courage. More importantly, so that you can step into the life that only you are made for. So let's dive in. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to introduce you to just an amazing person that I've had in my life for several years. And we got to start our work together long ago. Her name is Havah Polstolksy. Did I say your last name right, Havah?
Well, close as it's ever been.
I worked really hard on that. You know, that was important to me. So we're going to talk a little bit. It's almost going to feel like you're listening to a coaching session that we have had for years together. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Havah. And first of all, tell us your full name and tell us where you're at.
Okay. My name is Havah Polstolksy. The last name's a hard one. And I currently live in Tel Aviv, Israel.
Wow. Okay. What brought you to Israel? We'll start there because I know everyone wants to know oh my goodness, you're in Israel. Start there. And then we'll move into what made you even call me and start working with me. So go ahead and take it over.
Okay. So about 7 years ago, I was approaching 30 and I was interested in getting a master's. And I come by Israel, honestly, in that my dad's Israeli and I had an Israeli citizenship. And I wanted to get more in touch with my Israeli roots and learn more about them. And I also wanted this master's, and I know of an international school over there. And I thought maybe this is the time, approaching 30 and let's continue the education and get to know your roots at the same time. With that said, I had a big adventure up ahead of me. And I also had loose ends in my life. And in order for me to make a move internationally and go back to school, which I didn't have a great history with to begin with, I needed some new tools. I had a fun, adrenaline-filled life up until then.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. I want you to write a book about it one day. I keep saying that. You guys would love her book, by the way. She's got the life that I'm going, who are you? I love it. Keep going, Hop.
I also had to ask myself that question. It's what's coaching. Or like, who are you going to become if you keep kind of going down this path? And I saw the future ahead of me, and I thought, I'm good at having fun. I'm good at adrenaline. I'm good at surviving, but I'm exhausted, and I'm getting ready to move, and I'm going to attack school again. And school is so hard for me to begin with, and I can't do this the way that I've been doing things. And so I contacted an old professor of mine from my first degree. And I told him the situation that I was in. And he suggested life coaching. And to paint a picture of this guy, all right, in his 70s, always seemed a little bit tired of, having to deal with a student. Just like the perfect amount of grumpy for a professor. And I love this man. All right. Always objective, told how it is. And I thought, who's going to give me a more objective answer, than Dr. Capron? Yeah. So I asked him, and to my surprise, he said, have you ever thought about life coaching? And I laughed. And I was like, life coaching, no, I need someone to give me the answers, not someone to help me find the answers within myself.
Yep.
But I've been living by other people's, answers for so long that I was really kind of conditioned myself, and I'd been groomed to kind of listen to other people's plans for me. So the idea of looking within myself and being guided to do so was foreign and scary. But I trusted him. I'd always trusted him, and I went for it. And not only did he suggest life coaching, but he suggested a coach. Him and his wife together brainstormed and thought, what would be good for Hav? And that's when they recommended you. And so just shy of my 30th birthday, we got started.
Yeah, we did. Okay. So what was the biggest surprise Because there's so much stigma around coaching, counseling, everything else. And coaching is a really active field right now. And there's so many styles of coaches out there. What was your biggest surprise, I think, when you started working with me as a coach that I don't know, kind of hit you?
My biggest surprise was, oh, it's so fun to think back to those days. Okay. Okay. My biggest surprise was, first of all, the importance of me just showing up.
Mm.
All right. There was a skill. I'll backtrack a little bit. Part of the reason I also got into coaching was I knew I was fun and I knew I'd had a good time, but I wasn't really liking the person I was. I wasn't reliable. You know, I wasn't, school was always hard. I had a hard time following through on assignments. I had a hard time following through on anything. And our first step into coaching was, Havah, you call me. You know, when our sessions start, you call. That was on me. There were no reminders or anything. And it was just, you call me. So once I started getting in the habit of that, and I would say that I kind of tested you a little bit in blowing things off here and there, you know, calling kind of late. But I expected you to meet me with a wave of shame, like you're not taking this seriously or something like that. And it never happened. Every time he answered the phone, it was, hey, Hom, it was a warm and loving space. And it was okay. You met me, as long as I showed up for the phone call, you met me where I was at every single time. And you never allowed me to be like, I'm so sorry and throw out excuses and stuff. You're like, that's all right.
Yeah.
And it started this warm, kind of cuddly, oxymoron, but foundation that I felt safe coming back no matter
Perfect.
what.
I love it. I love it. One of the things I remember is, oh my goodness, I'm working with a very creative, intelligent, and free soul. So I knew I had my work cut out for me in a very fun and empowering way, which is you get to be free, but we got to create some stability. And that's really what I wanted you to feel. And my gut was telling me that she's probably gotten a lot of shame on her amazing creativity and her kind of like jetting from thing to thing. And I never wanted you to feel the shame in that because you're always going to have a ton of interests. I wanted you to feel the freedom of that, the empowerment of that, the value of having that in the world. And then how do we take all that creativity, all that intellect, and help you go after the life you want? But more importantly, you said a phrase earlier that said, I didn't like who I was becoming. That's what I'm always listening to as a coach. You get to become who you want to become. If you're loving it, keep going. If you're not, let's slow down and take a beat. So as we started slowing down together, and I said, the only rule I have is you got to show up every week. And don't worry, I'll be here. But if you don't show up, we're not going to work. And I remember that was a pivotal point for us. But as you kind of stepped in this whole new relationship of how to create stability in your life in a new way, what did you begin to learn about becoming who you want to become?
I learned that I could start trusting myself, that I had, right? Because a big part of me was kind of handing my power over to other people who I deemed more responsible, or, you know, the ones that always showed up or the ones that got their assignments in on time, you know, they hold the key to the universe, these people, you know?
Yeah.
And so surely, you know, I'm kind of flighty and like, you know, and one of the differences like with the coaching is for the first time, I didn't have someone pointing out what I was doing wrong, but I had someone highlighting all the things that were great and I could offer. So learning how to trust myself, things started to turn around, and those started with little agreements with myself, you know, little things that I could follow through with. It didn't start overnight. Started real small. I guess I should say the first thing it started with was starting to shut down the outside voices, the outside and the inside voices that were saying, no, look elsewhere. So once you get alone, when I say get alone, it doesn't mean you don't have to go as far as I did. You know, you can just shut the door. But getting some rest and then starting to realize what's serving you, what's not serving you, what's getting in the way of getting there on time, or what's getting in the way of you finishing your paper for your master's class.
Yeah.
And what's more important to you at this point in life? All right, you keep choosing your master's, so you better say no to the things that interfere with getting that paper in on time. Stuff like that, little agreements with yourself.
Wow, that's so good. I'm smiling because it's taken me back because you've grown so much. But I remember the conversation of, yeah, Hav, everything has a cost. You want your master's, you're going to have to say no to this. And for those of you listening, you need to know that she's got her master's in biblical archaeology in Israel in the University of Tel Aviv. Is that right? Yeah. So it's just a really cool degree. And I always joke with her. I'm like, she's my party trick. I take her to all my friends and say, look at her. She's got her master's in biblical archaeology in Israel. I mean, how cool is that? So we're always kind of geeking out on that and having fun on that. And then in some ways laughing because as much as you love that that master's program, I remember it was less about the content and more about just finish it because you want to create stability in your life and you're choosing that. We don't know where this is going to take us, but that was part of you creating structure and stability in your life. So go ahead and speak to that a little bit.
Oh, totally. In the end, like I said, it's an awesome title and it was an awesome thing to be a part of. And I got to do some pretty cool things. And that's not who I am at all today, and that's kind of the fun, like the irony in it all. I went into this program thinking I'm going to be a biblical archaeologist on my way out, but the degree, and as you kept reminding me, I wasn't in love with the subject material and I wasn't in love with academia. Mm-hmm. And in the end, it was never even about the degree. Yeah. It was about, like you said, stability and structure. And that's what's so interesting about coaching or coaching with you is it offered, life is not just one dimensional by any means. Look to your left, look to your right. Like maybe this degree in this master's program, it's just serving you as a template of how you want to do something else in life. Now you understand deadlines. Now you understand research. You don't have to be that biblical archaeologist at the end of the day if you don't love it.
Right. And we never know how it's going to circle around. I know a lot of our conversations had to do a lot with shame. And I remember even just this like, oh my gosh, I feel so stupid that I did this. And I remember going, where is the shame coming from? So I think that's been part of our relationship over the years where you get to love who you are and who you're becoming. But there was a lot of shame messages that you had to really address. You want to speak a little bit to that?
Yeah. And I think that's, going back to one of the first questions of what kind of surprised you about coaching and stuff was, for me, what I was able to accomplish with myself by showing up to a place with zero shame was unbelievable. I never knew it was one of the main things in my life that I had to start shutting down was shame. And then when you've got someone in your corner, like a coach, shutting it down for you when you're like, should I shut it down? I'm not sure, but maybe they're kind of right. I was late a lot, in my life, or I've turned in a lot of late papers, and you've got someone in your life saying, keep going. You're okay. You were tired, you had other things going on. It's not about that necessarily. It's about getting up and keep showing up, and whittling down the things that are keeping you away from being the person that you want to be, starting to say no. When you get rid of the shame, it's amazing how much further your brain goes, how much further you go, how much you fulfill. Truly, that was eye-opening.
That was so powerful. And I've always felt so honored to be in your life for that main reason. I think of so many conversations where I'm working with this incredibly amazing woman who is intelligent, creative, and off the charts with IQ. And a lot of my research has been on human intelligence. And worse, she's been told that she's flighty and stupid and incompetent and weird. And I was always like, what the heck happened to you? And I feel like I just came out swinging my sword going, I don't know where this shame message is coming from, but you're brilliant. And then the other thing I began to realize is, wait a minute, you're still keeping people in your world that is participating in this shame message. So I guess I want to dig a little deeper here because I think a lot of our conversation started moving into, why are you keeping these people in your world? They're not helping you become who you want to become, but I'm afraid it's what you're used to. So you want to talk a little bit about that? Because I think it would really help some of our listeners who are wondering why they're not moving forward in life.
Yeah. Yeah. This also was like totally eye-opening. I thought I was doing everything right in the friendship and the family realm, but I felt like I owed a great deal to the people that had stayed close to me. I owed it to them to take care of them emotionally. I owed it to them for the, emotional dumping. I owed it to them to fulfill their needs, things that I was never qualified for. But I was kind of a groomed people pleaser. And so this was a natural environment for me until you start seeing how it starts breaking you down.
You knew how the rules work, did you?
Totally. It was the whole thing. I thought I automatically like owed these people, and I was so lucky that they even liked me. And then you hand over your power.
Well said. So, of course, we can all see as listeners how that prevents us in becoming who we want to become, to use your statement earlier that I just love. I think now as you've shifted away from the shame, I want to ask, what if you replaced it with? I know. Big question. I'm going into a coaching call right now, Hav.
Memories. Okay. Okay. I'm replacing it with a lot of love and kindness. And look, this one took a while. And even now, like, I'm really starting to get the gist of it, like our coaching has ended, but like, even now, like it trickles down and like, really like this, like the seeds were planted, but now they're really taking sprout. Right. And now I'm replacing it with like so much kindness and so much love towards myself. Like I put something in my calendar and I didn't finish it today. And then I look at myself and I go, oh, honey, that's okay. That's okay. You've got a window. Sound familiar, Heather?
Yes, it does. And I'm sorry, I cannot gloss over that statement. I put something in my calendar. Can we please speak to that?
Okay. So the idea of me keeping a calendar many years ago was completely foreign. I can remember everything, right? Wrong. Yes. And so one of the most important things to implement into my routine was to start keeping a calendar and to fill it out. And it doesn't have to be filled to the max. It could just be something small. And this was starting to train myself to keep small promises to myself. And now this calendar is like one of the biggest tools. And it sounds simple, but when you can, like people start asking about your schedule and your plans and everything, and you don't want to respond on the spot, being able to say, I just got to get home and check my calendar buys you oodles of time. Heather taught me, and it's beautiful, and I'm never letting it go.
I love it. And then the people who don't like your calendar, they don't like that you're checking it, they don't like that you're putting boundaries down. How are you handling that?
Now the calendar thing has created an amazing filter. Because, anytime you're trying to do anything in your life and you tell people like, I just need some space right now, when they're kind of hanging on you or need you or asking you for something. And in the past, if I said no and they rejected that, then I immediately was like, oh gosh, you're right. Like I should go back to that person. And now if I gently say no, it doesn't work in the calendar, but I've got something a month from now. And like I said, it acts as a natural filter. And the people that are like, totally get it, sounds good, we'll talk then. Then it's like, ding, 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 like you're over the finish line. Like, all right, this is going to work, know, but the people that say no, now you know.
Oh, love it. Love it. Yeah. Awesome filter. And it starts helping you cultivate the relationships you want and the life you want. And I think that was the two things as you started stabilizing and we started working really, going after that. I go, not only are we going to deal with these shame messages, but we want to help replace these shame messages with love and kindness, like you said, toward yourself, towards others. And here's what happens. Then you start attracting people that are going to join you in the love and the kindness, and you start detracting those that were really participating in the shame. So I know that was huge, but I gently had to keep saying, listen, you're attracting this because you're still dealing in shame. So you're attracting shame relationships that are shaming you. Speak to a little bit about that and what started happening with you when you started taking ownership of this isn't just happening to me where all these people are finding me. You're attracting this. And I was always trying to be very careful to say it without shame, but I was like, we got to take responsibility for the life we're creating and the people we're attracting. So talk a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, like old habits die hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like you really do when you enter this process and you start trusting yourself and you start rebuilding your identity. For me, it kind of happens, and it doesn't happen in this like one beautiful balanced process. It's kind of like piece by piece by piece. And I connect with people, and I started to realize, and you gave me permission, Hava, you don't have to connect with everyone, like. And this was one of the things that I was really struggling with, was I kind of invited in anyone that was kind to me in the classroom, or, in fun meetings or whatever. And I felt like I owed it to everyone to be there to connect with. And when you gave me the permission, it was like, no, you get to be selective who you're allowing in these days. It doesn't have to be everyone. You get to have standards. This has nothing to do with being nice to people, by the way. This
Right.
just has to do with how much you're involved in each other's lives. So once I started raising my standards for who was going to be in my life, people that accept the calendar, people that don't need to talk to me all the time, people that understand I'm in grad school, you start letting a lot of people stay out. Then
So
the
well
people
said.
that meet you there, all right, for this, it's safe.
Oh, it's beautiful. And even now, I'm like, okay, raise the standard one more. Not only do you get to not have those people in your life, not only do you get to have the filter, you get to actually be cheered on the way you cheer everybody on, including myself. And I want to say, you get to have that because that's who you are to people. And that's why people love you. They want that encouragement and that cheering on. So, I know not everything's perfect right now, but you're in a place of a crossroad. Talk a little bit of what this is looking like for you next, both in your relationships and in your career.
Yeah. And by the way, thanks. Yeah, it is like so fun once you see like the fruits of your labor, of like when you said people get to start cheering you on, and like now I'm experiencing like that. I'm like, that's so cool how that works. Like all the hard work, all the no's, like and it is hard and scary at times, but once you get to the other side of that, you're like, so worth it. It's so cool.
Yeah.
So where we're at now is my fiance and I are, we've been in Israel for 7 years, and we're ready to try life out in the States. Yeah. And this is a big move. All right. And it's scary. It's totally scary. And we are kind of at this crossroads. How to do this move? Where exactly to go? What are our careers and jobs going to look like once we get over there? We're jumping into a bit of an unknown for us. We've gotten quite comfortable over here in our little Tel Aviv bubble, our little love bubble here. So is that all going to come crumbling down? I mean, all the questions that are coming across our mind, but I'm not going at this the same way I came into this country. We're able to know that we're okay. And we're starting small. Once again, like with this, I've learned you kind of have to start small. First things first, when do we want to leave? All right, once you get that figured out. So little steps. When do we want to leave? Where do we want to go? We've got a lot of options. Let's narrow it down, all the while checking in with each other and seeing where we're at, and not letting any contrarian voices that would plant any seeds of doubt in our mind. This is our journey, no one else's.
Yes.
Really keeping it between us.
Yes. And I know you did come over stateside to stay with me for a couple of weeks, which we had a blast, and we could really digress on how much fun we had, but I'll keep us focused on, I think one of the things that even in our friendship, I was over helping you by saying, well, you don't have to stay here, speak a little bit to that, because I wanted you to feel so free, but it looks like you're going to be actually coming into my neighborhood, which I am over the moon about. But I was actually saying, I don't want to be one more voice of shame that says, you got to come live near me. You got to do this. So even as we're navigating that, our friendship at this new level of you coming stateside, talk to our listeners a little bit about that and what you're learning.
This was so funny. So I come to stay with Heather. And this is also a place I lived in Rockland, Roseville area when I was getting my first degree. So I'm a bit familiar. My grandparents lived there. So this really seemed also like a good place to start out if we were going to come to California. But Heather, in all of her kindness and like no shame and like no obligation, and this life is yours to live, do not try to please anyone, is suggesting all these other great places to go.
All over the country. Yeah. Nashville, Colorado, everything. Yeah.
Throwing out amazing suggestions to the point where I was like, Heather, I think it's going to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the reason being is we've got friends, we've got a bit of a support system, and we're not quite sure where to start. So we're like, we'll start like in the known. But you were so sweet and like so unselfish in saying like, no obligations, Hav. It's got to be wherever you want to go. There's a lot of great places to live. Just saying, to the point where I was like, no, I'm going to be your neighbor, whether you like it or not.
And all I can say is lucky me. And as you're navigating this, and there's so many unknowns, and we've had lots of conversations about that, career, an international move, even the fact that, you have a fiance and you're trying to get married, and COVID just kept shutting down everything from licenses and where to get married, and Israel and Greece and even Denmark, I think was the last one we talked about. Figuring out that piece, just getting married, I think it's been so powerful. What has helped you kind of take those baby steps with all these big, overwhelming decisions that you're trying to figure out?
Okay. So the thing that I keep going back to every time, it's very easy to get off track and to get scared or scattered, which is all normal and part of the process. But it comes back to, with my fiance and I, what kind of life do we want to lead? Let's not get stuck on what we can't do. What is it that we want, that we're interested in, no matter how big it sounds, and what's it going to take to achieve that? Starting with a small step, getting to live the life we want, knowing what that kind of life is, living life on our own terms. The States, there's lots of options laid out in front of you, being able to list what you want and then slowly filling in the categories, and it narrows down the certain destinations that you have available to you, and keeping that conversation like that is what's really helping us.
That's beautiful. And I'm noticing too that you're being much more selective than ever about who you're inviting into that conversation. I'm thinking of Miss Delina. I'm thinking of good people around you, but even part of our conversation, I was like, Hav, keep it small. You got more questions than answers right now. There's some people that are going to help you process well and kind of meet you at these crossroads. And there's some that are going to have tons of opinions about your life. And it's just overwhelming to take it all in. So talk a little bit about that.
First of all, one of the things that I needed more than anything was for someone to tell me it's okay to keep it small. Yeah. We're living in a world where, or a Western world, not even just the Western world, but a world that's very focused on community, which is beautiful and wonderful, but sometimes you just need to be solo, or just with your partner and just one other person that's cheering you on. Mm-hmm. The idea of like constantly having people around someone like me can really get me flustered and off track. So a gift you gave me a long time ago was, it can just be you. It can just be a small group. It can just be one friend. That's fine. That's acceptable. Oftentimes we kind of get these messages in this world where it's like, the more friends, the better, or like old friends are the best friends. Like, no, not one size fits all, and you also gave me permission, like, not to participate in everything. Like, I thought I had to, you're like, Hava, put your hand down. Okay. So then like, it's okay. Like, you don't have to volunteer, ask questions. So when you told me I could make my world smaller, I was like, now I can really start getting some good thinking, getting some stuff done. Smaller in the way of like, not having a bunch of people involved, not having to do a bunch of, interesting things. I did a lot of that in my 20s. Like, I'm good for now.
Yes, I love it. Simplicity and stability, I think, is what did we come up with? 2 S's? Do you remember?
I think it was simplicity. Yeah, it was simplicity and stability. Exactly. That was the theme of this move.
Yes. Yeah. So it's just like, what's the next best step? And let's keep it small, and whatever is simple and stabilizing you and alone as he moves over with you. Trying to figure out next steps is as simple as, let's get an apartment. Let's start looking for a job. And then, let's create a revenue stream. And I know you have a big dream in front of you. And I think I could talk to you all day, that. So we're going to start wrapping it up. So I want you to just tell everyone your big dream of what you're moving into, and then just one piece of what do you want to leave our listeners with as they are going after the life they want and really strengthening their own identities in the life that they want?
Okay. My big dream that we're moving into right now is really life on our terms. I want to say it's really having much more control of our day to day and where we want to go and how we want to do things and travel and what we want to be a part of. And we're moving towards that. And as far as, for people, when it comes to strengthening your identity, it is a beautiful marathon. For some people, it could be a 5K. For some people, it's that full 24, like it is for me. Like it was for me. It continues to be. And the idea is you're going to trust yourself and create this incredible relationship with yourself. Make sure you've got at least one good person in your corner cheering you on for you. And you can keep cultivating the trust. Do something small that you will follow up with. And it starts there. It's a domino effect. Listen to inside of yourself. Like, it's there. Get a guide if you need to, a good guide, but it's all within you. It's all there. It's all possible. You just have to find a way to dig it on out or lure it out. That's a nicer way.
Lure it out. I love it. Dance it out. We can just keep going. Oh my gosh. That is such an awesome way to kind of wrap this up, Hav. I love that. And, the term you said, I just love is life on my terms. So, I want to pivot over to my book that's going to help our listeners kind of live life on their terms. And I believe every individual and human in this world has a life that they're made for. Go after that life. Go live it on your terms. So definitely join us in that. Join Havah and I in this as we are creating more and more community around us where we're supporting people going after the life they're made for. And you can find out more about my book on heatherpenny.com. And it's at all big stores, Amazon, Target, Barnes & Noble. Please join us in that. You can do it in hardback. You can do it, join the conversation in the audio book. I just recorded that, and also the ebook. So thanks so much for being here with us today, Havah. It was just so fun talking with you.
Hey, my pleasure.
All right. Go after your life, listeners. We're cheering you on.
Yes.